All right. I think we're good. Let's see.
Says live.
It does. I can't see anything yet.
It says meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Oh, ho, ho. Oh, ho, ho. It's like every time it works, it's a beautiful surprise.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Let me just make sure we are on.
It says live.
We are
on-
here.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right.
Good morning.
All right. So, Pops, I don't know if you could see it, but I'm actually gonna watch it on my phone as well. There we go. So I can see who's commenting. So what I put OG real estate is here to stay. You know what OG means?
Oh, God.
Nope. It means original gangster. Oh, let me see that cup. Let me see that cup. I think the colors I picked for my year are amazing. The red and black, kind of like Patrick Medford colors,
There it is.
right?
18 and president.
Yeah. Did you have any cups? Oh, that's right. You didn't want to spend any money on cups.
I was president 2013 and the economy was doo-doo. And we had no money, remember? You were in a good time. I was in a horrendous time.
Yeah, 17 was definitely a lot more fun.
Yeah.
I'm representing right here. I'm representing
Ah,
the best ever, baby.
the
Okay.
Yankees.
So the reason why I put OG real estate is here to stay is because there's been a lot of change and the disruptors that are now scurrying away. And I know how you like using that word. Redfin yesterday laid off. Here's an interesting number: 7% of their workforce, but of those 7%, 41% of their agents were let go. That means that they kept on all their programmers, their marketing people,
Of course.
and they let go of the realtors.
Well,
Now,
that's a great example of how important realtors are in a Redfin type environment.
yeah, I mean, listen, it's easy to attack. Um, I need to get my iPad because I wrote something down. I was on a like a real estate group, and they were saying like, "Oh, we're all in this together, and we shouldn't be going after Zillow or Redfin or all that." And I said, I'm not. I have a different angle on this. Oh, it was Ryan Serhant. You know the guy who does Millionaire Realtor on Bravo,
Yeah,
good
yeah,
looking
yeah.
guy with the gray hair. He just went on a rant, and people were like, "Why are you going after Redfin?" And I said, "I'm not going." I said, "I think it's a different angle. I don't think it's really going after Redfin or any of the other ones, but I think what realtors who decide to take a W-2 paycheck versus going 1099, and what I wrote was they got institutionalized by being fed. And I feel like they did not bet on themselves. They kind of sold themselves short. So now they don't know how to hunt the buffalo as a real entrepreneur. And now they got let go of what they thought is a safe job. And they got let go during a time where it's going to be 3 to 5 times harder to jump into real estate the real way. So that was kind of my take on that. A lot of people, they think they're taking the safe route, and it ends up being the riskier route. Does that make sense? You staying with me on that one?
And if I'm not wrong, when you sign, an agent signs a Redfin contract, they also have to give up their database.
So
So,
that's when you're a different one.
well, either one, either one. There's Dave.
I got him in. I guess you could bring him in during it, which is good. Um,
Mhm.
Then I said a second thing, and I said, and this was a little harsh, but you know I don't mince words. Dave, I'm going to bring you in on a second, so just hang out. I said, listen, these companies are self-proclaimed disruptors. They call themselves disruptors, right? And last time I checked, that's not a kumbaya way of saying like they care about the status quo, the way we do in real estate. They call themselves disruptors. Why should we now bring them in the fold and be like, oh, there should be so much empathy for you as a company? I was like, no. And I said, I'm not trying to be mean, but I said, you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
You bet. You
And
bet.
you got to pay the piper, and the rent's due, baby. And so my sympathy is not there. You know, iBuyers, we did so many Dave and Daves talking about iBuyers. And now it's like, I who?
Mhm.
Right?
Well, it's also run by the stock market, and the stock market on those companies aren't doing well right now. I will always say it, I always have. Traditional real estate companies will never, ever go away and will never be that, it will never end their integral part to getting a transaction done. That's the way I feel. It's the way I always will feel about real estate.
And listen, traditional real estate has its issues too. They're not immune from professionalism things and too many realtors and things like
All
that.
businesses have their issues.
Of course. But this is, I don't want to call it a reckoning because I'm very cognizant to the physical and health wise of this whole issue, right? But
Right.
at the same time, whether it was induced by something we can't control like this coronavirus versus just a true downturn in the market, which would have happened within the next 5 years just on pure cycles alone,
Mhm.
it doesn't take a genius to figure out that this would have happened anyway. Like the first thing they do is cut, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in escrow to buy your house. I'm an iBuyer. I'm going to pull out. Well, you would have been better off if you were with,
Did pull out of all those
That's
transactions,
what-
right?
that's what they did. And
Yeah.
now, you know, they're going to be around. And I'm not even like, let's use Zillow as an example. I've said this once, I'll say it 1,000 times. You know, eventually it's going to become a really good deal to buy online leads from Zillow or Sync or Realtor.com or any of the sites that sell online leads. But I got an email from an agent yesterday, and they're like, "It's just really expensive with Sync." And I said, "Wait 2 months, you'll get twice the leads for half the price." You know, am I wrong?
Fire
Like,
sale.
that's what I'm saying. And you
Mhm.
know, it's that great Warren Buffett quote. It's is a second one where it's basically like the rising tide. I'm going to screw it up, but it's like you get exposed for what kind of company you are.
Mhm.
You know, you're on the beach naked, and it's like, let's see who's over leveraged and who's not.
I agree.
So, um, yeah, I'm not trying to like go after them, but all right, Dave is waiting here. I gotta make. It says no. Dave, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, now I got to bring on your pretty face. Hold on.
All
Yes.
Daves are pretty.
All right, there you go. Oh, Triple D.
Here we are.
Wasn't this a Guy Fieri Triple D?
Diners,
Dine-
drive dimes. Yeah, you got it.
Right? That's
Yeah.
always food with us.
I agree.
I don't have a problem with that.
All right, let's get a little introduction. So you're looking at the David Ronald Tina. He is the bald one. Yeah, there he is with a hoodie on. David Julius Tina, yours truly. And then we have David Barry Sanders, the best
The full
running,
name. Wow.
the best, the best attorney running back in the game.
I don't know which one of us has a worse middle name. Ronald, Julius, and Barry. Oofa.
I like mine.
Glad you do.
Julius
was
is
my dad.
strong.
So there you go.
So, my wartime consigliere. How you doing?
I'm doing good, my friend. How are you?
Good. Good. All right. So this is how we're going to do it.
Today. So
What'd you say?
I didn't put on a suit today. I decided against it.
Either did I.
So there we go.
Apparently, Mr. Ronald didn't even decide to put on a normal college suit.
I am walking. I am taking a break. I'm doing 10,000 steps a day, and I'm halfway through it, and I'm doing the other half when we get off because it's going to rain this afternoon. So I am on a mission. It says on coronavirus, the healthier, the stronger you are, the less chance you could get it or fight it. So I am doing my share by doing 10,000 steps a day.
So basically, we're gonna jump into some topics, Dave.
Okay.
But I'm also gonna ask Facebook to ask questions here in the comments. So I don't want to put you on the spot. I know that,
Put me on the spot.
well, attorney-client privilege, you can still answer some questions, right,
Well,
to a
With
degree?
the caveat that I am not anyone who's watching on Facebook's lawyer. These are informational in nature. And if you have additional questions or concerns, please reach out to your attorney.
Beautiful. And I'll also preface that my father and I are not your broker. So this is just,
But we can be their broker, Dave.
yes. And Dave could be your legal counsel as well. He's not, I don't think
Exactly.
he's allowed to solicit, but I am. So, all right, Dave. So let's walk through, right? You are the former legal counsel for the now renamed Las Vegas Realtors, right?
Right.
And just to give people preface, you've written a ton of the forms in the last 5 years. You've presided over changing over the whole professional standards committee. You've had your hands in almost everything, right? You went out on your own. I said, I'm going to be your first client. My dad and I, we committed. So when this all went down, we had a conversation. I reached out to you and I said, let's put together 2 forms, right? One similar to California, the coronavirus addendum. And 2, I said, I really want to be able to over disclose the risks associated with listing or buying during this time. So you came up with 2 great forms. I think you also had requests from all your other clients as well. And then Jill, the association, I think they're about a week after you, came up with something as well. Can you just give us a little explanation of both forms? You don't have to get too deep, but especially the distinction of why I like our form better, nothing against Las Vegas Realtors or California Realtor Association, but the big distinction and what it's for.
Sure. So there isn't a force majeure, which is also known as an act of God provision, in any of the existing LVR forms. So the purchase agreement doesn't have anything that would address this specific situation where you have a government shutdown and that impacts people's ability to perform under contract. So the COVID-19 addendum is designed to address the scenario that what if Governor Sisolak redefines, and I don't know or have any secret knowledge that he's going to do this, but changes the definition of essential business and causes more people to get out of work. Or if you're unable to fund because of a variety of reasons related to the breakout, that's what the form is designed to address, to give essentially a buyer. It's very similar in nature, if those of you who remember back 2008, 2009, the short sale addendum. It addresses the specific things that arise in a short sale transaction. Longer times for requests because the bank has to sign off, those types of things. Same concept with the COVID-19 addendum that we put together. It addresses the concept that explains essentially what force majeure means, and then gives a couple of outs. And then there's different options related to issues that arise from COVID-19. The biggest difference between the one that we put together for you and that I did for several other clients and the association's version is the association's version defaults to a 30-day window. And then you have the option to put it in there. It's the only form like that from the association. Most of the association's forms allow the real estate professional to put the time frame in. I think that I don't know necessarily if 30 days is a bad or a good number, but that's the default unless you specifically go in and put a different number in. The options are essentially the same with the earnest money being returned to the buyer. And in that sense, so I would definitely recommend, if you're not already doing it, any transaction that you're entering into right now, I think it would be unprofessional and frankly, maybe even negligent to not address the issues that arise related to the COVID and use that addendum if you're making an offer on a property.
So Pops, you want to translate lawyer speak into real estate world speak of why you'd want to use this form because of all the things that could potentially go wrong?
Yeah, my answer very easily is use the form because of what's going on with COVID-19 and use it every time you do a transaction at this stage.
All right. So if my dad's explanation and Dave Sanders' explanation had a child, it would be my explanation because
You are my child.
You over-explain and you under-explain. So basically, there's a lot of unknowns in transactions nowadays. You don't know what's going on in the loan market. They're having issues with VA, FHA, jumbos. They're still happening, but depending upon the lender, you don't know if someone's going to lose their job during the transaction because of layoffs and things like that. So because of that, you need an addendum taking care of all parties and at least extending potentially the escrow or giving the people an out. It's really an empathy play, I believe, if you do it right. I mean, I know we were talking about that yesterday, Pop, on our private page, like karma and doing the right thing in this play, not necessarily getting out of the deal for a strategic reason. You made a great point yesterday, Pops, about how like sometimes people get out of a deal because they're worried about the deal. That doesn't have to be a coronavirus situation. It could just be in a normal situation. Well, then they could probably lose their earnest money. I mean, but if it's a real situation, like I lost a job or someone got sick or I can't get funded because they changed loan requirements, then it comes into play.
And I also said that there isn't a judge in the world, even if you're worried and scared because of the coronavirus, if it goes to court in the end, I don't think a judge in the world will rule against that buyer that was scared because of what happened in life. So it's a lose-lose if you're fighting for earnest money.
What do you think about that? When he says those judges things, I always laugh because he's like, we're going to go to court. You never go to court. Do you think there would be empathy on a judge's part? I mean, obviously, just speculation.
The key to what your dad said was at the end, because I can't tell you how long it's going to take to fight an earnest money dispute. If the RPA is being used and if the parties executed the mediation provision, then you have to mediate before you can go to court. Well, we know that the courts are shut down. They're not having hearings. We could probably submit a mediation packet, but when that day will ever come around is a different story. And then because the courts have been shut down, we're going to have a backlog to get caught up. So I couldn't tell you if we could get in front of a mediator before the end of the year.
Which is why I'm telling everyone, negotiate. Don't say I'm 1,000% right on the seller. All contingencies are gone. Negotiate earnest money. Take a little bit of this and a little bit of that because we don't have the backup systems. The 5 cases I'm on for professional standards, they wrote me a note this week saying all of them are canceled. We are not rescheduling them until we know what the hell's going on. So you want to talk about backup, professional standards is going to be going every day, twice a day, just to catch up. So,
And the eviction courts are going to be the same way. I mean, the governor's order stopping evictions and unlawful detainer actions have just stopped those cases. The governor's order specifically says you still have your contractual obligations. It just means that when this is finally lifted, the eviction courts, justice courts, which are already incredibly busy already before all of this, are going to be even busier. So those remedies are out there still, but it's a very long-term play to get that. And frankly, I don't think that a judge is going to agree with the seller in this situation.
Right.
And I like to joke that there are times in life you want to be first, the DMV, back when we could go to Disneyland. You don't want to be the first seller in an earnest money dispute and stand up before a judge. And we elect our judges in Nevada, and have the fact that the seller is being particularly obstinate over an amount. Now, every case is different. There's always going to be an exception to this, but if you can certainly work out something now, you would at least have the chance to get the money within the next 30 to 60 days rather than who knows when down the road.
Right.
So-
Never land.
to talk about the second form, I'm going to give you a situation. I was a little late. We were supposed to set this up at 10. This is going to play into the second form, but also pops what's going on with the market, right? So a house in my neighborhood just went on the market. My same house, I renovated it, my own house, but came on at a good price in a beautiful lot, renovate the house, gut it. I have multiple friends of ours that are actually interested in the house. So a couple of things. One, the market is still holding strong, holding the line. Would we say that's fair, Pop? Holding the
I
line.
would say there's still business. There's still business.
So I went and showed the house to my buddy Matt, and Angie had to walk over there with me because my Lockbox app is not updated on my phone. That's how much I'm showing houses nowadays. And we went in, and now it's my really good buddy. We talk all the time, but we still, even this is a buddy that I drink with and party with, like a good friend of mine. We're always, I'm such a huggy type person. And we kept distance from each other. We walked through the whole house. He wasn't touching anything. I had hand sanitizer ready. I was whatever. We stood there and talked in the backyard. Well, we did the whole normal showing thing. We didn't have masks. Maybe I had a false sense of security because he's quarantining, he's my friend, but we kept the distance. Well, I wanted that second form that was hold harmless, which I don't know, maybe I should even get my buddy to sign. But in today's day and age, even though it's so obvious, regardless of what you think about the coronavirus, being a really good friend of yours, Dave, I've learned that you really have to over disclose and have redundancies in forms. So explain the coronavirus limit of liability and why it makes sense. My dad and I have made it mandatory at our business at Urban Nest.
So we've already seen, believe it or not, some lawsuits being brought nationwide by employees who died of COVID-19, suing their employer for not taking enough steps to provide protection. So there is just a straight out general disclosure that we're talking about the fact that the virus can be contracted through touch. We know a lot about that. And so just the second form is an explanation to the seller, or frankly, anybody who's going to be going into a property, saying, these are the risks that are involved with going a showing and going into a property for any purpose, a showing, an inspection, walkthrough, you name it, and acknowledging that, and then agreeing to not sue the brokerage and the agents involved for any potential exposure. And the idea is it's twofold. It's additional education and to the parties involved, and it's also an extra layer of protection because even setting aside, and we'll talk about your statutory obligations under NRS 645 in a second, but this is just another example of making sure that you're protected because we don't want to have, and if someone, we don't want to have a lawsuit over exposure to the virus because of a real estate related transaction. So that's what the form is designed to do. I also think that you have an obligation under NRS 645 to disclose whether or not the seller or a buyer has flu-like symptoms. It's a material and relevant issue to the transaction. If the seller is exhibiting those symptoms, I don't know about you, but I don't think I would really want to go do an actual physical walkthrough. What are the abilities? When you're cleaning the home on the way out, as a part of the walkthrough, we know that the virus can survive on surfaces for extended periods of time. So there is a lot of uncertainty here that this form is designed to protect you about.
You bring up a great point, Pops. I'd love you to chime in. People always want to know if someone died in the house, right?
We don't have to say that though.
We don't. And my dad and I laugh about it. Not laugh because people died, but in New York, these houses are my dad and I grew up, he raised me in a house that was 78 years old, 80 years old. The chances of someone passing away in that house, of course someone passed away in the house, but in Vegas, it's a different game. But you don't have to disclose. They also want to know, back when people were freaked out about HIV and AIDS, if someone in the house had AIDS, you couldn't disclose that either. It's only if the house, correct me if I'm wrong, is if the house can hurt you. So a meth lab,
if a condition of the property caused the death, now this is where it's something that could be interesting, because hypothetically, I think someone could make the argument that if the COVID-19 virus was on a kitchen counter in the home, that's not that far of a stretch for me to think that you might have to disclose that. And I think it's prudent to ask does anyone in the home have flu-like symptoms? Just to be safe, so that you don't have any issues that way. I think it's material and relevant, particularly now because of we are an essential business. Real estate is an essential, but if we're not careful, and that could change if the risks involved become a problem. So I think that disclosure is always your best bet in this situation, and not disclosing that, I think, would be potentially a lot of problems down the road.
And they could always go, Dave, if it's true, they're doing these deep cleans, like in all these businesses that had it. The division just did a deep clean. The air traffic controllers did the deep clean. So I agree. You could agree to do it. And there's companies in Vegas doing the deep clean right now that are going to take it out there if it's laying there. So that would be the more intelligent thing to do.
And there's best practices, right? A lot of, you gotta love kids. Even my daughter Ella, we're going for walks, and she's saying, I'm like, Ella, you can't. We ran into our friends. They live in the same neighborhood at Ella, and I'm talking to the husband Andrew, with 6 feet apart us. Angie's talking to the wife Lindsay. But the kids, it's very difficult for them, they just want to play. And they're not touching each other, but they're still getting closer. And I'm like, Ella, and she's like, it's just, I feel rude. You got to love kids. Kids are so honest, you know what I mean? You feel rude and uncomfortable having the conversation of listen, but this is what I think you should do when you're showing houses or you're listing houses. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to, I'm going to keep my distance. And I think if you break that ice, because the other person feels just as uncomfortable as you about it, if you break that ice and everyone just agrees off the bat of how we're going to navigate through the situation and even lead through it, when people show your house, I'm not going to let them touch anything. Do you want to be sitting in the house? Have the best practices ready to go.
Yeah. And I think that discussion, you need to have that discussion with your buyer clients if you're going to be walking through. We don't want to touch anything inside the home, not because because to me it's a sign of respect. They talk about people wearing masks who are young and healthy. It's not because you're potentially a 22-year-old who can get sick. It's that you wear the mask to prevent people who are susceptible from to the disease from getting it. And to me, it's just, we need to be respectful and mindful of that distance so that we don't unintentionally infect someone.
On the flip side, it's going to be very difficult to prove that you got COVID-19. So this is definitely something to cover. I'm getting questions from some of our agents that we have addressed this, but we'll address it again. Buyers and sellers, when you give them this liability, limit of liability when you do the duties owed. So you should be giving the duties owed and this liability disclosure at the same time. Then we also have the question, do you give it to the inspector? Well, the inspector and the appraiser, I don't believe that we're protecting them. They have to take care of their own. Correct?
Well, it could be a couple of different ways. I mean, if, I would say best practice would be to make sure that anybody who's coming in the property signs the document and is aware of that. Now, I can't imagine, an inspector not being aware of this and the appraisers not being aware of the potential issues that are out there. They're the ones who are going into different homes on a regular basis. There's a lot of potential exposure there. So I would hope that they're taking the necessary risks to not only protect themselves, when they're moving through those properties, but they could certainly talk to a lawyer to discuss about how to mitigate their risk when they come into the home.
What do you think, Pop?
I would say that our client is the one that we have to give the form to. I think inspectors and everybody else have their own forms or disclosures they're using. I would just be hyper careful and give it to anyone you feel you're comfortable giving it to, but most of all your client, because that's who we're bringing the exposure to. That's my opinion.
Okay. So Dave, we're going to jump around. Some of it's not going to be attorney, but stay with us because I want your input. So I almost did a post, and I don't want to get sued by Wells Fargo or any other company, but this payment protection plan, and also with loans, and we let off the video with Redfin laying people off, and all I could think about was they're exactly who we thought they were. Why are we surprised? You know what I mean, Pop?
Yeah. And it's up to us to fight the fight to get what we need to get.
But it is kind of like, it's like, let's just use David's example. He's our friend and attorney, and he's been there for us. I mean, getting an operating agreement, he had it written up for me quickly. I've had multiple questions. We needed an essential services form for all of our agents. On the good side, Dave was exactly what I thought he would be, not just in peacetime consigliere, but wartime consigliere. But there's
I'm
people.
not Tom Hagen then.
You're going to be wartime consigliere for a long time. But then you have relationships, whether it be with your bank or whether it be with your broker or whether it even be personally, when things start stressing a little bit, why are we surprised? Because I'm not really with all, you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where I'm saying to myself, this is the time where you want to be surrounded by the people that you can count on, the services that you can count on. If you're at a brokerage that doesn't pay you on time during the good times, and then all of a sudden they don't pay you at all during the bad times, well, is it shame on them or shame on you? A little bit of both, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's kind of ironic that we're going, wow, Redfin laid off 41% of their agents, or wow, there's only a 10, these big banks aren't able to fund these loans. It's just not a surprise to me. Any take on that, Papa?
My thing is about relationships, and if you should be establishing relationships with the bank. Ask to meet the president or the manager or whoever is involved, so that when the time of need comes, you're not sitting out there on the limb. You already have a relationship, and you could say, hey, it's me. And instead of going, hey, I don't know who you are. So that's my thing.
Well, also, do you have it in place? It's not too late to get legal counsel, but it is
Right.
much better to have that relationship in place during the good times, so that when the bad times come, we don't have to establish. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Same thing with having systems in place and things like that.
Yeah,
All
I
right, so
agree.
let's talk about the market. So Dave, good news for you. Your house just went up in value. 319 was the median price for March. Now, there's a caveat to that. We were on track, Pop, to have the best month at
Of
Urban
course.
Nest in
Of
8 years. We still
Of
almost
course.
closed like 270 transactions. We were going to go way over 300 transactions. It's kind of good news, though. If we're going to eventually go down, which nobody knows, it's good to go down when you're here, all the way at the top, right? Our median price has never gone past 315 until February and went to 316. And now here we are at 319. What do you think? Where are we at? Pop, that's for you.
I'm sorry, I was looking at us on video to look at questions. So
I got that under control. I'm better at multitasking.
okay, you're younger. God bless you. See, God punished you. God bless you.
Well, thank God I'm sneezing with the coughing, or I'd have to give all of you a disclaimer, liability disclaimer, but allergies are killing me.
So yes, the question is, where are we with the market? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I mean, how do you take the new numbers with a grain of salt? Where are you at?
I believe that businesses, thank God, we're a city that are allowed to sell houses. So let's start there. I think a lot of people are agents, it's your choice, but a lot of people are taking a back door and rather saying, I'm not showing. And I think there's business, and we have to take care of that business. Like we went over very smartly with gloves, masks, shields, wipes, whatever it takes. I said to one agent the other day that the sellers are very hesitant of letting people in. And I said, get a full loan approval, just subject to appraisal. And so that they're not looky-loos. And then let them look at the neighborhood. Oh, it's a 1-story with 2 2-stories. I don't want to live like that. I want to be not overpowered. Let them look outside. Then step 3 would be, I love the neighborhood. I love where the house is located. I have a pre-approval, just need a house in there, and I got the loan. Then I would let them in. So it's a cautious market. It isn't death that everyone thought it was going to be. Houses are going in, listings we're getting and are going in escrow every day, and sales are every single day. So go forward, go cautious. If you are a senior or have a pre-existing condition, refer your business out to other agents that don't have those 2 things.
So do the due diligence on the front end,
Yep.
right? So I like that a lot. And, we have a referral that came in, and I talked about this on our own page, but, my wife's going to show the house. And she had the conversation. She initiated the conversation of, all right, how are you expecting to look at houses, right? He was kind of on the fence about wanting to do rehabs. So we were like, you know what? We're not going to show you houses that need work. He kind of is into new houses that are either redone or brand new ones. So she's doing all the business up front. And she said, listen, here's how it's going to go. If it's a new home, I'm going to call up front and get you registered over the phone. You can go look at the new home. If it's a resale, I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to open the door. You go in and look. Like all of the, she's going to do the due diligence up front, and then the expectations of her and the client have been communicated prior to them seeing each other. Because then you get put in a weird situation. I don't know. We all been there. I've had situations where I've opened the door to talk to Instacart or Natalia is being dropped off. And the next thing you know, I'm face to face and signing something. And I'm like, how did this go? How did I just get there? Whereas with now, I did Natalia's last night. I paid for it. I did the tip. Everything was done. That I didn't. It was just I was 6-8 feet away from her. She already knew I gave her a great tip. Which, hey, first of all, these people are working really, really hard. Tip fantastically. Number one. Number two, they're also handling your food.
So we don't want them spitting in it.
So when I was like, I already took care of it, she's like, I know, thank you so much. You know, it's not just karma, it's intelligence. So, all right, due diligence and doing things ahead of the game, huge. And as far as the market, I agree with you. I'm still watching California, which is, I don't want to say it's been hit harder, but definitely more cases, more worry there than us, more of a lockdown than us. And prices aren't moving. They're not moving. It's still so expensive. So
In California, yes, I agree.
even here, that house that I showed to my buddy, there's going to be a couple of offers on it. And it's going to go close to list. Like a good deal is a good deal. Now, don't get me wrong. In a different world, I'm going to be more aggressive and maybe I buy it and flip it or move into that one and sell mine. I'm not doing that. I think that's where it's going to,
Which
don't have
we've done many, many times in LA.
exactly. I don't have to do that right now. But if I've been waiting forever to live in this community and a house came up, I'm buying it.
Right. And your job is still there.
Exactly. Exactly. Davey,
Yes, sir.
what are some of the advice you're giving clients or some of the things that you're telling them, hey, you may want to look at this in your business right now? I know we've talked about a ton of things. You're almost like an advisor in this time, right?
What I would say is that this is an ideal opportunity for you to do the whole Tony Robbins 2mm shift and say, how do I use this as an opportunity to streamline your business? The ability to do the due diligence up front, like you've talked about, keeping your lines of communications open. And I think the biggest problem that everyone I've talked to who's tried to apply for those SBA loans is no one knows what's going on. There's the frustration with the large banks because of additional requirements, documentation. No one's exactly sure. And that lack of communication is the problem. This is the time to start reaching out to your clients, build your base. I've been talking to several business clients who are looking this as an opportunity to expand and to how do we take, and I don't want to say take advantage in the sense of a used car salesman take advantage of, but we are in this situation. How do I use it to benefit myself, my family? You have if you're stuck at home with your kids, you got great opportunity to create memories with them. If you are, this is a time to really be adventurous on how you can set forth your business. I do want to really quickly talk about that essential services form.
Okay.
And I know that some of you already have it. Make sure you're carrying that around. I do have a client whose agent did get accosted in a neighborhood, going through an open house, going through a final walkthrough. I would say just leave it in the glove box of your car. Have that form with you just in case. We don't anticipate any problems, but being safe is important. So make sure you're using that essential services form that explains that you are allowed to conduct business.
So I already shared it on the forum. My father and I have made this decision a long time ago when we when we were in the association. You know, we took all of our ideas for our own business with Urban Nest and we shared it with Las Vegas realtors and said, you know, we do this at our company. You should do this at the association. We're very open. So about 4 or 5 days ago, I shared on my personal page all the forms, you know, the community form for your company, the essential services form. You know, it's very simple. It's like, it's just stating that Governor Sisolak, you know, said that basically real estate is essential. It states what we're allowed to be doing out, and it's signed by the owners of the company. It's something. So you can, obviously you can't copy it word for word, you know, Dave wrote it up, but have your attorney or have your brokerage put something together so that it keeps everyone in the loop. Same thing with the forms, we shared them out. I mean, there's a little bit of borrowing, you know, you're not horrible with copywriting, right? Yeah.
I would say that if there's any brokers or any real estate related services out there that wants this form, I'm more than just direct message me. I'm more than happy to share, because it's all about making sure everybody stays safe right now, not necessarily protecting copyright or intellectual property laws. So I would say if you need it, yeah, and it's all real estate related services, title companies, mortgage companies, those entities. If you're going to be out and about, I would recommend that you have some way to identify yourself as an essential service. I don't have any actual knowledge of, you know, I do know that Henderson and Clark County had been shutting down some businesses that were running. Ironically enough, the liquor store by the association was open after the essential order came down, and the county went out and pulled their business license. So there are potential consequences for non-essential businesses that are out there, but you just want to make sure that you're safe.
Got it.
I agree. And then just to double down, you could actually speak to this, Pops. NAR came out with some suggestions and recommendations pertaining to open houses and door knocking and thing like that. You want to share what our take is?
NAR is advising you to do virtual open houses. Since the coronavirus spread all over, they are 100%. They're giving their meetings, everything now is by Zoom, or we were supposed to go in May to DC, and they are giving a virtual meetings that we supposed to have. For every meeting we're supposed to go, they're setting up virtual. So NAR's stance is do it virtual, explain it virtually, stay out 99% of the time. That's their policy.
And it's optics at this point. You know, we have some agents that rely on open houses, and that's their bread and butter. And listen, open houses are a great way to generate business while, you know, doing work for your listing. Like I get it, but it's a bad look right now. You know, I have, you know, being a broker of 420 agents, you get, every time one of your agents does something, it's almost like being a parent. You're getting an email saying, did you see what your agent put on Facebook? And a lot of the times I'm like, listen, once they get past real estate, that's the end of my father and I's rope. You know what I mean? Like what they post politically, religiously, you know. Oh, Ange just did a cameo. You know, I have people just like attacking me, and I'm like, I get it, but I'm not, you know, we don't have a conduct policy of the place. So just recently we had an agent saying like, hey, you know, basically kind of breaking social distancing. And I had a broker coming after me. I was like, there's nothing I can do. You know, I'm not going to, he's not doing an open house. He's not door knocking. This is his personal life. And this isn't on me. But on the flip side of that, it is optics. And you got to be smart during this time to not come off looking like you're insensitive to the situation. You agree with that, Pop?
I do. I think what's helping me for everybody out there, I'm looking at vacations on the television, vacation shows. I'm thinking of where I want to go when this is over. I'm looking at sites, and I know this is all crazy, but I think that helps you get out of the the negative mood of, wow, I have nothing to look forward to. I'm stuck here. So why don't we look in our future and think where we want to travel when this is over? So I understand that isolation is not our nature, especially realtors, because 99% of us are social. So that's helping me a lot to go and look at where I'm planning to go. And it's a lot of fun. And when you do it online, you could check out a million different places and it makes you feel good. So rather than think of breaking your isolation, try to look at the future rather than today.
And it's not going to get better before it gets. It's going to get harder before it gets better.
We have some really crappy weeks ahead of us.
And I'm starting to see, people starting to crack.
Mhm.
There's more conspiracy theories than I've ever seen. There's more little like, I'm going to push the envelope a little bit. It's easy to go outside and be like, it's such a beautiful day and no one I know is sick. And, and you're starting to go a little crazy. And then you throw a couple of cocktails in there and now you're down the rabbit hole. It's really important to focus on, to not even focus, to seek out sensitivity. I mean, if you haven't watched Some Good News, it's called SGN by John Krasinski. He's already done 2 episodes. If you
Yeah.
haven't done that, if you're in a bad spot, go watch that because you're gonna what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on the wrong thing, it's gonna go in the wrong direction. So I kind of knew we were gonna go this route. So I want to talk. Let's talk fun. Let's do movie recommendations and series recommendations right now. You at?
So the first thing I heard is the movie Contagion is the #1 movie being watched.
Why?
Believe me when I say this, wrong place to be. Don't watch a show that makes it even worse. I'm watching Ozark. I'm watching Money Heist. I'm watching anything that has to do. I'm watching the Disney Channel when I feel crappy because cartoons are exciting. I'm gonna do the pay-per-view on what's Ella and Lola's movie, the second one that you said is so good. I'm
Frozen 2.
watching Frozen 2. I'm watching this week. Wherever your head is at, offset it with something that interests you that does not have to do with being sick.
Davey, what about you? I know you love some good shows.
Well, a couple ones. First of all, if you haven't had the family night or good night to watch the new Pixar movie Onward on Disney Plus, watch it. It's great. Second of all, my go-to movie when I'm down is I'm Ron Burgundy, Anchorman. Watch
You kind of look like him right now.
Yeah, the hair's getting. We might be learning how to do a buzz cut at home here real soon. I would tell you, get outside, get active. Walking every day, getting outside, enjoy the sunshine. I have been running a lot more lately, and that's been helpful. And I would tell you the other thing I would say is go easy on yourself. You don't have to beat yourself up every day.
I've been watching American Idol. So American Idol is
What,
taking
you skip me? I don't get a turn?
Well, no, because you're watching The Bachelor. I know that.
I'm
So,
not watching it, although Blind was interesting on Netflix.
go ahead.
I've been rewatching old movies, not old movies, but I watched The Lord of the Rings. I watched The King's Speech, which was great. I watched that last night. I haven't seen it in forever. I started watching Big Fish, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Not a lot of people have seen that. I got The Usual Suspects in the queue. The Walking Pops, with the Pops, I know you're walking. Dave, I know you're running. Our family's been walking. Being outside is so essential, so important. And, Connie made a good point here. I think she was giving us our efforts to stay connected through at Facebook Live and Zoom are really valuable. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Connie. But everybody doing that. I mean, I've been on the phone with Dave a ton. I've been on the phone with you, Pops, a ton. But having the three of us here is a totally different dynamic. It's comforting. It
Yes.
really is to see your faces.
Mhm.
I think we have to make
Can
sure.
I hug you? Can I hug you?
He won't even do it. I said we live so close together. We walk with the family. I said we could walk at the same time and keep social distancing and see each other. I also I saw 5 women in SUVs with their trunks open, sitting on their like kind of like the flatbed of their SUV in a parking lot at Faith, and they were separated, but they were just talking. I thought that was great. It was almost like a tailgating, but just not touching each other. You know what I mean? Like that makes sense. Bring your own. I mean, I shouldn't say this, Dave. Earmuffs. Bring your own booze and go for it, right? I mean, bring a designated driver. I don't know. I have one for 9 months. It's the beauty of my wife being pregnant. You know, I mean,
In Red Rock in the park, I saw 4 families with 4 blankets, and they did a picnic, and they were all about 8 feet apart. And they were all laughing and joking and eating and drinking. And they created this picnic in the park where they kept their distance. They were probably 10 feet apart in a square. And they all looked like they were having a great time. So maybe that's smart. I wouldn't have done it because I don't want anybody.
you could just say hi.
Hi, Els.
All right, we're falling apart quickly. So let's leave. Let's. I wanted to leave it with this. So, let's talk about mental health, and we talked about this yesterday. Number one. We said this at our company. We could tell you all day how to navigate through. But sometimes, if you're alone or I'm not going to speak for Dave because this is on my father and I, but reach out to us. If it's a 5, 10, 15-minute conversation, we're here for you. If you're on my Facebook, we have connected somehow, some way along the line. I've had people that I've known not that well reach out to me for some advice, and I am honored that you feel comfortable enough and connected enough that you still and vulnerable enough to call me, because I will not judge, because I've gone through every single evolution of this that you have. So that's, I believe, number one. Like, we got to be truthfully here for each other, not just an email or a text, how you doing? Like, I got to talk to somebody. Number two, like, be aware. Pops, I don't know if you watched this the other day in S Connect. I said you need to have 3 plans. Your 3-month plan, if you're driving in a car, your 3-month plan is the road ahead. That's the most you can even try to plan. You're not going to be able to control it, but you can plan it. At least go, how's my next 3 months going to look? Now, that's at your 12 o'clock. At your like 2 o'clock, guess what? That's your 6-month plan. You're not focused on that, but you know it's there. And then you got your 9-month plan, which is at 3. So just be ready for anything and adapt and innovate as you go. The reality is you're so much stronger than you know, and you will be able to survive. So perspective is going to be a huge game for all of us moving forward, and it's going to help our mental state. And like for you two, how do you, because I'll finish with this, but I want to ask you two first. There was a week I woke up and said, is there a light at the end of this tunnel? And I was having a hard time finding the light at the end of the tunnel. But I have it now. I have a plan in my brain. How are you coping with that, Pop? Where's your light at the end of the tunnel? You have an idea of how this plays out.
You have to have goals. So I have goals to be healthy and lose some weight. Nothing, the advantage of being old is, nothing ever lasts. So this too shall pass. And if I was working and selling, I would have a whole set of goals of keeping contact with my past clients. And I'm getting postcards in the mail from a realtor in Red Rock that's selling Red Rock. No one's shutting down. So my goals going forward would be to keep myself healthy and to brace and have myself ready for when this is over. So you could go out there and be the realtor that you wanted to be, have been, or now achieve to be. So this is a great time to catch up on all your plans. At the same time, stay healthy. Like you said, contact family, contact friends, keep the lines open for healthiness. I don't advise people to drink themselves silly or take drugs or smoke pot, because that's a temporary fix. So I look for communication, keep an open line, and you could call, like you said, you could call any one of us, me, you, Georgia, or Jen, Bern, Danny, at any time, and we'll get you through it. But look ahead, because this will end. Fortunately, they're saying the cases aren't as great as they thought, and that will be very lucky if that's the case. And then, like I said, look at things. I feel like with American Idol, and I am no plugger of American Idol, I'm seeing normalcy. They're
Gotcha.
in crowds. I'm seeing something that's happening. I'm seeing emotion. So maybe I'll start watching The Bachelor with Angie on Zoom. I'm kidding you. But what I'm saying is just bring your brain to a different place when it's in a bad spot. That's all I'm advising.
Davey.
So those of you who don't know, I run marathons, and marathons are, the last race I did was the Dopey Challenge at Disney World. It's a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, 13.1 miles, and then a full marathon in 4 days. And it's really hard to get excited about the first mile when you know you have 47.6 more to go before you finish. Not a whole lot of people get really excited at mile 2. So what I would tell you is focus on the mile that you're on. Don't worry about mile 25 or 18, because that'll take care of itself when you get there. Enjoy the mile you're in. Look around. There's always something you can find positive. For example, yesterday I was running in the morning, and randomly on the side of the road there was a pair of men's sweatpants, and all I could think to myself was, someone is taking the work at home thing way too seriously because they left their pants on the side of the road. Unfortunately, when I went back the next day, someone had either thrown them away or said, wow, free sweatpants, and took
Or
them.
put them back on, Dave. Or put them back on.
So I would tell you, find the little things in the mile we're at today and worry about 18, 26 when we get there.
It's great advice. Great advice. You know, I am like, I have to see things. And I was like, all right, how does this end? And my first thought process, which I was saying over and over again, was, control. The only thing that you can control is how you react to the things that you cannot control. And once I submitted to that, I was like, okay. And then I got busy, because when I'm busy, like for instance, my daughter Lola is a skinny little thing and she's like all muscle. But the thing that she says every minute is, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Well, the other day she made it to like 3:30 without saying she's hungry, because she was so busy doing an activity that it wasn't in her brain anymore. And she just finally was like, wait a minute, I didn't eat. And I think that is what we need to do here. And that's like getting so fixated on like, how are things going to change? How can I innovate? How can I adapt? We talked about it yesterday. There's going to be more innovation in the next year than there was in the last 5 to 7 years. That's number one. And the number two is be pragmatic. I can see a future of, listen, we all get tested for antibodies. Some of the population's immune, some of it's not. The summer makes it hopefully go away. The vaccines come faster. Maybe we have treatments. And then you start thinking like all scientists in the world at the same time are focused on fixing one problem. And you start getting inspired by that. Like, what can be actually accomplished when the entire world is focusing on fixing something and you go, you know what? This is going to be okay. It's going to be all right. It's going to be different on the other side, but that's okay. And I think when you're having those moments of absolute supreme uncertainty and fear, those are the things that you have to focus on, what you can control. All right, one last thing. My dad and I were busting chops last week, and we were changing the angles of your sexiest face. Who goes first? Oh,
Well,
see,
you-
Dave can't even do it.
It's like this all the time.
The further down you go, the better you look. You see?
Looking serious.
All right, that's all we got for you today. Episode 66 of the Dave and Dave Show. And with the third
My
Dave,
age, my
your
age,
age,
66.
Triple D. Stay healthy. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Dave. Put your information underneath. Don't talk too much because I don't know when we turn this off. All right? All right, bye. I'll talk to you later, Pop.